I love every RPG with the word Xeno attached to it. Each title brings a certain level of quality, you know, kinda like Final Fantasy games did for a while. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was one of my favourites in the series. The story, the characters, the gameplay, the exploration. I could not speak highly enough about this title, which is why I was so excited about another title to expand the lore. Torna the Golden Country was released less than a year after the main game as an expansion title, or a DLC, but would you really call it a DLC? Its sheer size and the fact that it was released as a standalone hard copy suggests that it's more of an expansion. Regardless, this is one hell of an expansion slash DLC. It expanded the complex story while giving more of everything I loved about the main title. Long story short, this is a must play for fans of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Torna the Golden Country takes place during the Aegis War, 500 years prior to the events of the main game. In the original, we heard a bit about what went on during this time period, but Torna really nails it and fleshes out these events to near perfection. There were so many amazing characters in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Jin, Mithra, Melos, just to name a few. One of my favourite things about Torna is that these characters return and play a key part in the plot. Essentially, you play the role of Laura, who is Jin's driver, and team up with a load of others to stop Melos from destroying the world. We get to journey with some of our favourite characters once again, but in a completely different time period where many of their attitudes and values are completely different. Having played the main game, it was an incredible experience seeing what these characters were up to in the past. Torna, which will only take about 25 hours to complete, tells a story at the quality of the core title. There were moments that had me fist pumping and other moments that left me speechless. This was consistent right up until the epic ending. The fact that I knew what was going to happen due to playing the main game didn't take anything away from the experience for me. While I had absolutely no complaints about the story itself, I did feel that the ending was missing some crucial cutscenes that would have better filled in some of the gaps between the two games. I'm obviously not going to go into any detail about this, but if you've played them both, you'll know what I'm talking about. Also worth noting for those who haven't played either of the games is that while Torna is a direct prequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I strongly recommend playing it after the main game. The experience of both games would have been completely different had I played them the other way around, and I don't think this would have been a good thing.
My brother is ruling in my absence.
I see. And so you brought Brigid and Aegeon. Those two are the crown jewels of the Ardanian forces.
Yes, they are.
Wielding them on the front lines is the duty of he who has the throne.
So what's new in Torna? Generally, the gameplay mechanics are much the same, but with several changes that in my opinion make the gameplay a little more enjoyable. The major difference is that instead of collecting different blades Pokemon style, then chopping and changing them in battle whenever you see fit, you instead actually control your driver and then the two blades associated to each driver in the story. So with 3 drivers and 6 blades in battle at a time, there's still the same requirement to constantly switch between multiple characters in battle in order to unleash driver combos, blade combos, and chain attacks. There's also the addition of talent arts, which I thought was a nice touch. Each character has a unique talent art that can be performed whenever the unique requirements are met in battle. For instance, Laura can sacrifice half of her HP to fully recharge all of her arts that may currently be on cooldown. Without going into all of the minor alterations, essentially you can expect a battle system very similar to the original, but with a number of changes that all work for the better. As Torna the Golden Country is only an expansion, you can't really expect a huge variety of massive explorable maps like there was in the main game. There are 2 main maps to explore. Gormott makes a return but doesn't seem quite as large as it used to be. Torna is the bigger of the 2 maps and will be the main area that you'll explore. Most of the same mechanics have been brought over to this game. This includes a variety of powerful, unique monsters to take on, collectibles, and field skills that need to be learnt to unlock some of the secret locations and items hidden in the world. Despite being significantly smaller in scale than the main game, I still had a ball exploring and had plenty of incentive to hunt each area high and low. The new big feature in Torna the Golden Country is the community system, but unfortunately this was my only real issue with the game. This system involves having the citizens approve of you and requires you to complete side quests for nearly 100 NPCs scattered throughout the world. If these side quests were completely optional, I wouldn't have a problem. However, at one point in the game, you are forced to have a certain community rating to proceed. This means that to progress on with the amazing plot, you'll have to stop and do a load of boring side quests. I personally did these quests as I went along, but if I had ignored them up until that point, I would have been struck with at least 5 hours of boredom. And they certainly are boring, as most involve running around the map, fetching items, and having to read loads of uninspiring dialogue, which I ended up skipping. I can only tolerate so much. Monolith, they're called side quests for a reason. Don't try to give them a reason to exist in the main narrative. This is a simple one. If you enjoyed Xenoblade Chronicles 2, then Torna the Golden Country is a must play. It both elaborates and adds so much to the already exceptional story, and is hands down my favourite RPG DLC/expansion I've ever played. The combat is once again sensational and somehow manages to improve on that of the main game. In fact, everything you loved about the main title can be found here, making this a no-brainer for Xenoblade fans. The only real issue was the community system that forces hours of boring side quests on the player. So, looks like now is the time to go play Torna the Golden Country, but if you haven't played the main title, that should be your next stop. This was Hellfire RPGs, thanks for watching. What did you think of this expansion DLC? Let me know in the comments. See you next time.